This is KGW News at noon.
We start here at noon with a live look at Washington, D.C., where more than 100,000 people are taking part in a March for Israel in the National Mall. High-profile speakers are there, too, like the Israeli president and House Speaker Mike Johnson, as well as family members of the hostages taken by Hamas. Thank you for joining us here at noon. I'm Christine Pitawanich. About 40 Portlanders from the group Oregon NCSY are at the march in D.C. to support Israel. They're a local youth organization for Jewish teens. This photo was posted to the group's Facebook page at about 7 o'clock last night with the caption, "And we're off to D.C." They say the March for Israel is all about standing up against anti-Semitism and calling for the return of the hostages held by Hamas. People in the group say they're traveling to the rally to stand up for humanity.
You know what's nice is that originally when this whole thing happened, everyone was in shock and, starting to collect money and raise funds. But now it's over a month later, and I don't even feel like the activism has dropped. We go from one activity to the bake sale. They're setting up tables today to represent the hostages that are missing. We cannot rest.
So the rally started at a couple hours ago at 10 a.m. our time, and it's expected to wrap up around noon, very shortly here. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, the director for Gaza's largest hospital says people who are trapped inside are digging a mass grave for bodies they have no way of moving out. President Joe Biden said yesterday that the hospital must be protected from all the fighting. The Israeli military accuses Hamas of using the hospital as command center. Hamas leaders deny it. NBC's Josh Letterman is in Tel Aviv with more details.
The largest hospital in Gaza, Al-Shifa Hospital, is now a cemetery. Today, medical officials there have been burying some of what they say are 150 bodies of Palestinians that have been building up at the hospital site with no safe way to bury them. Today, they said that they are venturing out of the hospital despite the ongoing risk of gunfire from the fighting taking place in the area to try to dig a hole and bury those bodies before they further decay. One doctor at the hospital telling NBC News that about 100 of the medical workers ran out of food last night. For days, there has been almost no electricity, and now an urgent effort to try to save infants who need to be in incubators and no longer have electricity to run those incubators. Israel's government says it has provided, or at least offered, mobile incubators to try to evacuate those infant patients. But so far, there has been no concrete plans arranged to actually get those babies safely out of Al-Shifa Hospital as more and more civilians are streaming out of the north, trying to find safer ground in southern Gaza. Josh Letterman, NBC News, Tel Aviv.
So health officials in Gaza say the death toll is now at over 11,500 people. Also, Israeli officials released an updated estimate of the number of people killed in the October 7th Hamas attack. They say 1,200 people were killed, 200 less than previously reported. Officials are still working to identify the bodies.
What we need to do is avoid the government shutdown. Why? Because that would unduly harm the American people. Troops wouldn't be paid. We know all the effects of that. And so we have to avoid that, and we have a responsibility to do it.
That was Speaker of the House Mike Johnson ahead of a House vote on his proposal aimed at avoiding a government shutdown. We're expecting lawmakers in the House to vote around 1:30 our time. Johnson's resolution would expand funding for some government agencies through mid-January and for others through mid-February. 2/3 of the House will need to support the measure for it to pass. The Senate will have to greenlight it too before President Biden can sign it into law to avert a shutdown. Some conservatives are opposed to the measure because they say it lacks deep spending cuts. So far, Democrats in both the House and Senate appear open to Johnson's proposal, in part because it keeps spending where it is and doesn't have those deep spending cuts that conservatives are pushing for. And as the House grapples with keeping the government funded, the latest report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics showed prices held steady in October with inflation slowing. Consumers paid the same prices in October and September, but overall prices are still up 3.2% from a year ago. Officials say things like food and housing costs all rose from last year, while gas prices fell. The numbers will factor into the Federal Reserve's next decision on interest rates. Well, today, representatives for striking Portland public school teachers are back at the bargaining table with the district. Teachers walked off the job 14 days ago, and as a result, classes are canceled again today for roughly 45,000 students. The two sides could not reach a deal over the weekend, so negotiations continue. Families we spoke with say they feel like they're caught in the middle, and they're stressed out about the situation. They say the walkout is negatively impacting students.
The adults in the room can't get this together and work this out, and our children are once again at home, out of school, and their education is suffering.
Teachers we've spoken to say they're striking now so they can better support students later. You can stay with KGW for the very latest on the strike. You can look for updates on air on our website, kgw.com, and also streaming on KGW+. Okay, to our weather now. Rod, I saw some sun, I think, a little bit of blue sky peeking out.
Lots of blue sky. I tell you what, I thought we'd have some high cloudiness in the sky throughout the day that would eventually thicken up. It's turned out to be a sunny morning, but behind me you can see, there are clouds to our south, and they are marching to the north. It is now overcast in Eugene, and that march northward of cloud cover this afternoon will eventually take away this beautiful blue skies. I mean, it's gorgeous outside. Here's Cannon Beach live. 53, that is a beautiful mild day for November. Now this is looking south from the camera down at Stoller Family Vineyards Estate in Dayton. So you can see the cloudiness starting to show up there, and that will continue, as I mentioned, to push northward. For Portland, maybe another couple hours of pretty sunny skies before we eventually will cloud up later this afternoon. We're at 52. We'll leave today's high at 56. Still a shower chance as early as 8 o'clock, but in terms of anything substantial that you would go, hey, it's raining, that's probably not until after midnight tonight. Your complete forecast, of course, is coming up. Christine?
All good to know. Thank you, Rod. We are hearing from a father looking for justice after a car hit and killed his son last month in downtown Portland near the waterfront. About 3 weeks into the investigation, and police have very little to go on. Catherine Cook spoke with the man's father about the son he wants people to remember.
Just remember Brandon as someone who loved and cared about everyone. I mean,
Ron Coleman misses his son, 34-year-old Brandon Coleman. Police say Brandon was killed in a hit-and-run crash October 21st. It happened around 4:30 in the morning off Southwest Nato Parkway and the Morrison Street on-ramp. Investigators say the driver took off.
We really appeal to someone. There's someone out there who knows something to come forward. There's, someone whose car was damaged, or something that's not right.
Ron says Brandon loved to make people laugh. He loved writing music and family. He also struggled with mental health. Ron says recently that struggle led Brandon to be homeless by choice.
In this society, we can't judge someone, their mental health issues, whether they're housed or not. He had people who loved him.
Ron hopes now someone will stand up for his son's memory. A life cut short by a person Ron hopes will be brought to justice.
Do the right thing. He didn't deserve to have his life ended in that fashion.
Catherine Cook, KGW News.
Now to an update on a deadly crash involving a car and a pedestrian around 6:15 this morning. Portland police say it happened at Southeast McLaughlin Boulevard and Southeast Cora Street. When they got to the scene, they found a man dead. Investigators say the driver stayed on scene. Anyone with information about the crash can contact PPB's traffic unit. Portland police say this is Portland's 61st traffic fatality. Meantime, police in Oregon City say they have arrested a man for murder. A woman was found dead inside a home on Squire Drive around 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon. 41-year-old Anthony Wessel now faces a second-degree murder charge. Police say Wessel knew the woman, but at this point, they're not releasing any other details. And later tonight, our team on The Story is digging into a huge water problem in eastern Oregon. Nitrates are the issue, with a water source threatening the health of as many as 12,000 people. State studies found a large source of the problem is irrigated farming. So tonight, Pat Doris will share a conversation he had with a farmer in eastern Oregon who explains what he's doing to keep contaminants from reaching people's drinking water.
we know how every inch of water that's going on the field. We know where it's going. We know every pound of nitrogen that's going on every field. We know where it's going. We've got the soil tests on the front end and the back end to make sure that we can prove we're not leaching it everywhere.
But according to Pat's report tonight, not all farmers are as careful as the one we just heard from, and most are not regulated. Again, that is tonight on The Story, which airs at 6:30.